Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Once again, I want to thank the August meeting for the honor of inviting me here to the great city of, and the historical city of Port Harcourt. I want to thank all the wonderful people and the students who have chosen to spend this morning and part of this afternoon for this event to listen to us and to talk about our modest effort in the art of writing. Let me say that I'm not going to talk, I'm not going to review the book. I think the reviewer did a very good job. You know, there was this joke about someone who applied for a job and the employer, the prospective employer asked him, "But you are too old for this kind of job." He said, "That not be old, now old." So the guy said, "Now only old, if you become old, join. What will happen?" You know? So he said he didn't have time to read the. So if you had time to read the book, what would have happened? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, like I said, I'm not going to detain us here by reviewing the book again. I will only say a few things that I think can help for us to think a bit more about what is going on around us. And Sir Adoki made reference to one of them that is very dear to my heart. On a Platter of Gold is just a journalist trying to practice history. I had the privilege of sitting in that government for 3 years. And as a journalist, it was the first time that I was encountering government at the highest level. And like when they said President Jonathan said he had no shoes. What I found quite astonishing, and this is very significant, was that when I spoke with Labaran Maku, the Minister of Information at the time, when we were getting to just know each other, he said the reason he went to school was that he was the most useless child on the farm. That he was just donated to the god of uselessness. That, look, you know, that his parents believe he will amount to nothing. So let him be the one that donated to the school. That's how he went to school. And when he came home and he said he came third in the exam, the parents were shocked. We know that you are useless, right? But we didn't know that you will take your uselessness to that point. How many of you were in the class? We said there were about 40-something. Said, out of 40-something, you were able to get only 3. 3. What happened to the remaining 40-something? And when I spoke to almost everyone in the room, all of us, almost all of us, including the president, was a child of one poor person or another. Including myself. My father was a tailor. My mother was a petty trader. In fact, I didn't start to speak English until I was 11 or 12. I was born in a village in Niger State called Kontagora, a village under, not even the Kontagorata, a village in Kontagora. My first encounter with English language was in Hausa. Yeah. I was taught what is a noun in Hausa. Suna mutunko, suna muriko, suna abushiri noun. The name of a person, animal, place, or thing is a noun. Abin da ya ba mu labari akan noun shine adjective. Kalmar da ya ba mu labari akan verb shine adverb. That's how I was taught in English language at the beginning of my life. Now, I met Dr. Saraki when he won when the governorship election of Kwara State and was looking for people to come and work with him. Then said, there was one Kwara in this day newspaper. I think you should talk to him. That's how we came in. And it was a long time that eventually I Now, the point about that is that I asked myself, the gap between Dr. Saraki's father, Oloye, the great Oloye, the gap between him in social terms and my father, the tailor, is like, how many lifetimes?
1,000 lifetimes.
1,000, right? Now, the gap between me and Dr. Saraki, the son of, what is the gap?
100 times.
No. You found 10 times.
Now, within a generation, that 1,000-year gap was closed. Why? I went to school. That's all. Now, the gap between my children and Dr. Saraki's children. No. One of my daughters was with KPMG in London. There is a cloud engineer. If you ask me what it means, I don't know. You know? So, I'm saying this to emphasize that many of us rose to where we are because we had hunger in our belly. It was easier to climb on an empty stomach than a full stomach. It was the hunger that drove all of us. 42 people taking the decision for Nigeria at the highest level, and more than 90% of us were children of poor people, including the president. Now, the biggest challenge that we have, how do we then translate the same hunger to our children even when they have so much to eat? This is the fear. This is the fear we sit in this room because we can afford not to work today. That's why we are able to sit here. It means that we can feed our children, we can send them to schools like this. Please, the students, Green Spring, other schools, these are elite children's schools. Don't take your privileges for granted. 99% of Nigerian children don't have the opportunity that you have, so don't take it for granted. Now the question is, we were able to relate with Dr. Jonathan. Like someone said, it wasn't special that he didn't have shoes. And that was what appealed to Nigerians. Now, I think I've been with someone who took me to his room and wall-to-wall wardrobes filled with shirts and shoes. And I asked him, what the hell is going on here? And he said, because when he went to law school, he didn't have a shirt. He borrowed somebody's shirt. And even before he left the venue, the person was asking him to return his shirt. So that appeared to have done something to his head. So when he could afford it, he was buying shirts. Some he had not broken from their packets, he bought them maybe 5 years earlier. Unfortunately, we don't wear the same. I will have helped myself. So people react to the reality of their background differently. Some people, that their background of deprivation become the impetus that they need to become extraordinary. Ordinary people who end up doing extraordinary things. Some people, they become captive to that background. So when I was writing the story of Dr. Jonathan, I was looking out for moments that can show whether he was able to break out of his background, or he was able to, or he allowed himself to be held captive by his background. And I'm telling you, it's not just Dr. Jonathan. When I saw the former vice president, and I listened to him for the first time, Professor Yemi Oshikato, his worldview appeared to him to be just Lagos. He's a professor of all, extraordinarily brilliant man, but his worldview is Lagos. So I think in a way you see so many people, you understand that when they get to the national space and begin to take certain decisions, to what extent the reality of their background inform what they do and what they don't do. As I try to explain in the book, even among the Ijaw nation, Dr. Jonathan was seen as a minority from what they are speaking. So they didn't even really see him as a job. So there was a sense of condescension and patronizing, even in the way that they related to him. They felt that they were going to save him from himself and compensate for his weakness, because he's not really a job in the real sense. So in looking at all this, we need to examine history. History. When people are preparing for leadership, we talk about how they need to be well educated and competent and all that. But we neglect history. More often than not, what Nigeria should be doing today is to make it compulsory for every Nigerian child, whether you are studying physics or astrophysics, to study history. And I'll tell you why this is important.
Or cloud engineering.
Or cloud engineering. No, or cloud engineering, they should study history. Now, Sir Adoke wonder why I didn't write about someone from Kwara or someone from, you know, say, okay, look, you know, we Ijaw people, we Rivers people were held, Delta, and then Niger Delta, right? Were held to a different level. The point is that I tell people I'm not Yoruba, they don't understand why I'm not Yoruba. They say, if you're not Yoruba, then who are you? I say, I'm from Ilorin. They say, how? But you speak Yoruba. I say, yes, the same way Americans speak English. But that doesn't make them English. Then I go into the story of how Ilorin was a northern border of the old Oyo Empire. And because of its location, it attracted different ethnic groups who arrived as slaves, or as merchants, or as scholars, and all that. Right? And out of a mixture of these different ethnic groups, a culture was created. Right? There were the Nubes, the Baribas, the Yorubas, and the rest of them. Hausas, the Fulanis. Then the jihad of 1804 happened, and Islam became the state religion, and everybody was rallied under Islam. So, and a new clear identity was created that is not Yoruba completely, that is not Hausa, that is not Fulani, that is not, it's just Ilorin. So today I'm from the southernmost northern town that is Yoruba speaking, so I'm minority of minority. So if you think you are minority, I'm actually minority of minority, right? So the chance of me becoming the president of Nigeria is actually more remote than yours. Because I'm North, if the North needs me to count the numbers, but I'm not North enough when I need the North to make up my numbers. But this kind of background is quite important. So when I was writing this book, I wasn't thinking of Jonathan as a southern person. I was thinking of him as the president of Nigeria who had gone through a political experience, and it's not a comment on the fortune or misfortune of the politics of the South. Now, to another point that I made about history. Have we ever wondered how our people were organized before these Westphalian borders that create territories that we call Nigeria, the Republic, Nigeria, and all that? The Kanem-Borno Empire at some point, and I'm saying with due respect to those who are historians in the room, I'm not a historian, I'm only a student. The old Kanem-Borno Empire was considered by the Ottomans as the hinterland of what they call Tripolitania, that is Libya now. And when they move on their trade, they move across Darfur to Libya up north. The trans-Saharan trade that lasted for centuries. Our people moved from the Hausa lands, Kano for example, and moved across the Sahara Desert, depositing populations along the way up till the Maghreb. Then one major event happened in the early 19th century, the Jihad of Osman Dan Fodio. People don't pay enough attention to the significance of that. then created one single empire that spanned from Burkina Faso today up to the plateau of Adamawa in Cameroon. Right? No Nigerian map as we know it now. The Sokoto Caliphate of the early 19th century extended, like I said, as far east as Burkina Faso, far west as Burkina Faso, far east as Cameroon, and far north as the southern Nigeria at the moment. Then Nigeria was formed. Did we suppose that the creation of these new borders of Nigeria will therefore obliterate the cultural identity and relationships of the people that interacted for thousands of years before the borders was created? Therefore, the man who lives in Sokoto today, Kano today, Katsina today, Jigawa today, do they feel more connected to Nigeria, to their kings in Niger? They cannot feel, and that is why if President Bolaji Abdullahi had been more of a student of history, he would have known that when you say you will invade Niger because of the coup, you are actually saying that you will attack the families of your own people. And you could see the way the North Kogi rally to say, no, an attack on Nigeria is an attack on us. Now today we look at the North and say this is a very poor. Why are they so poor? Why are they so poor? They were not always poor. Kano was one of the richest metropolis in southern Sudan. But when the white man came and constructed the railway from Lagos to Kano in our 1911 or so, what happened? The economic orientation of the North shifted southward, and that was the end of the Trans-Saharan trade. The collapse of the Trans-Saharan trade created a new generation of poverty across the Sahel. So when you say you have Boko Haram or any kind of militancy or banditry, without trying to explain them, without trying to justify them, they have historical background. So when the North is behaving the way the North is behaving, if we understand the historical orientation, we will understand why the North is behaving. Just like if someone from Rivers is behaving a particular way in relation to the nation state, if I understand the kind of situation you are trying to explain to me. So they are not just Hausa Fulani. There's nothing like Hausa Fulani hegemony trying to conquer Nigeria. There's no such thing. It's our historical illiteracy that creates that kind of template thinking that makes us. So I'm saying all this to emphasize that history is at the heart of everything. Look at it, what countries surround us? Benin Republic, Niger, right? Chad. All of them are French-speaking countries. But how many of us speak French? These children are going to be leaders in this country. They don't speak French. We've already disadvantaged them. We are surrounded by French-speaking countries. I went to Togo. The moment I crossed the border, I became an illiterate. Then we can make up for this. We can begin now to groom these children to be deliberate leaders of Nigeria by understanding Nigeria's neighbors and Nigeria's neighborhood. When we say arms were being smuggled in from Libya to Nigeria to strengthen Boko Haram, some of us wonder how is that possible? But there are roots that have been established for thousands of years, where people were going to Mecca from Nigeria through that same channel. And those who were smuggling weapons know that route. That route is still there. Darfur up to the Hijaz. It wasn't known as Saudi Arabia, it was called the Hijaz. Now, so it's important for us to understand. So what I've done is on the Platter of Gold is just a modest way as a journalist to try to practice history, because like Mila Kundera said, he talked about people who, he wrote a book he called the Book of Laughter and Forgetting, while people who like to laugh and forget and just move on. One of our nationals is moving on. Now, to conclude, the biggest challenge we like to think that we are diverse people. Of course, we are diverse people. But it is not the white man that introduced the Galas to the Igbos. It's not the white man that introduced the people of the oil protectorate to the Sokoto Caliphate. They knew one another. They did businesses together. They fought wars against one another. One of the kingdoms in Ekiti, the title of it is Ata. Ata is an Igala. They are basically Ekiti. Ayede Ekiti, the title of the traditional is Ata of Ayede. There is a story behind that. So we are essentially the same people, and what binds us together is more than what we are not even as a country like Spain. I was astonished to find that Spain does not have, it is the only country in the world that does not have a national anthem. Yes, because they could not agree on the wordings of the national anthem. At least we have a national anthem, right? The most important thing therefore for us, this generation, how do we create a national story? Because we say China was able to transform, but China had a national story that they were able to build everybody around. Rwanda had a national story that derives from the genocide, and they are making something with it, whether you like what's his name, Kagame or not, right? Now the big question for us is, how do we create a national story around which everybody can believe? It is only when we are able to create a national story around which everyone can rally, can understand. And it's going to happen. We will die off. These children, they don't understand Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba. They don't understand. In fact, the world is a space for them. Because they know that you can sit here in Rivers and work for a company in Germany or Brazil. I was going to London some time back, and I arrived with these children, and I was very ashamed of myself. The British Airways was like a school bus. The schools were resuming, and Nigerian children were being shipped into the United Kingdom for secondary education. I was really embarrassed. It was as if people knew me and said, you are a minister in that country, and you people cannot even give your children basic education. Then I saw this young, about a boy, about 10, 11, he was crying. He had an elder sister with him. I said, why are you crying? He was said, I don't know, I don't want to come. I don't want to come. Then I asked the sister, why is he crying? He said, no, because he didn't want to come to school. And I said, okay, don't worry, you will soon get another holiday and go back home. By the way, where are you from? No, what's your name? He said something Showumi or something wrong, obviously Abeokuta, right? He said Showumi. And I said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Wuse 2. Who gets to come from Wuse 2? He said from Wuse 2. Then I asked the sister. The sister said, don't mind me, we're not from Wuse 2, we're from Abuja. As we speak, if they ask your child, whether he's from Rivers, he's likely to tell you that's where my father comes from. He is a child of the world. These children look at the world differently. They don't see this Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Muslim, Christian stuff that held us back. This country, these children will build a different country. And we cannot give up. Because when we say every single day to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign, Madam, I'm glad you introduced yourself. I haven't studied English. To build, that's an infinity, right? To build a nation. The work of building a nation, it means that 1,000 years from now, Nigerian children will continue to say, to build a nation. That means that job will never be done. So when people say Nigeria cannot work, we say, how stupid can anybody be to say that? Nigeria will work, whether we are there or not. And no matter what level, these children will grow up and they will build a new country. And their own children will still come and be saying to build a nation. Thank you very much.